Can we talk about Bearwhale? So, Ergo has had a rogue actor that has a pretty sizable, amount of erg that has been trying to exploit and control different frameworks for over a year now. And there have been some times where that's worked, sometimes where it's kind of blown up in the Bearwhale's face, and he's taken some financial hits. But yeah, when you're talking about blockchains, you kind of always have to assume that there are going to be attackers. So I don't know who the Bearwhale is. Based on some of the timing of actions, I would, safely assume that it's not someone that necessarily knows what's happening on the back end, because there have just been a couple of times where if there were any information asymmetry, choices wouldn't have been made. So that's something I've at least found relief in. But to some degree, we have to expect that type of attacker. Somebody that's going to say, okay, well, I have a decent amount of power in the ecosystem just based on the amount of tokens that I control, and I'm going to try to use that to my advantage. You kind of get into a debate here where these systems don't really work well if there's an assumption that everybody's going to behave. We need to kind of take the proof of work assumption that everybody is going to try to maximize the value that they have in the system. Now, the Bearwhale, as an independent actor, I would say has been a net positive for security, even though it's not necessarily someone that has been too supportive of the system. They've more been attacking it, but it gives us the ability to make sure that our frameworks are solid. And so it's kind of like free stress test. So in that sense, it's been a positive. That's actually something that we've heavily considered in building the DEXI framework, is that it is going to be more hardened for that type of actor that's going to try to manipulate frameworks than AGUSD is. There's just less room for that type of action. So net, I think it's a positive. It's something that we have to assume. It would be nice if we could say, okay, well, the assumption we can make is everybody's going to behave and get along, and the world's going to be a great place. But that's really not what these systems are for. They're meant to try to say, okay, well, in the event of somebody trying to control or manipulate the system, what are the assumptions that we need to make? And so as users, that's something that you continually need to look into. It's something you should understand, because that's the risk you're getting into, is you're interacting with a system that's built on certain assumptions that you need to understand. And that's something we've actually tried to encourage on the application level as well, where, if you get into Ergodex, I believe, has a KYA thing that you read, hopefully. I can't say that's going to be universally true for users, but having a understanding of the assumptions, the risks, and the levels of control. You have an industry that is hyper-focused on that on the base layer, but then if you look at the applications that are built on top of the base layer, for some reason, that hyperfixation on assumptions and distribution of control kind of seems to fall apart. I think the industry would be a lot better if there were more focus on knowing the assumptions involved in contracts and who can update the contracts. And, when you get into infrastructure, what is the distribution of power and risk? Heavy questions, but ultimately really important in terms of delivering a trustless experience within a certain set of assumptions.